Season 5 begins on November 12, 1983. We open in the woods of the Upside Down, inside Castle Byers. Will is singing "Should I Stay or Should I Go?" when he suddenly hears a voice outside. Before he can react, a Demogorgon breaks into the fort. Will runs for his life, escaping through the opening and climbing up a tall tree. The Demogorgon climbs after him. Will tries to jump to another branch but misses. His backpack gets caught on a limb, leaving him hanging for a moment before he finally falls and loses consciousness. The Demogorgon drags him to Vecna. Surrounded by twisting vines, Vecna traps Will and declares that the wait is over and the game is beginning. He forces his power into Will's mouth and adds, "Together, you and I will achieve everything." The story then jumps ahead 5 years to November 3, 1987. At the Wheeler house, Mike's little sister Holly is setting the table for breakfast when she sees someone outside. She waves a greeting to them before her mother, Karen, calls her back, saying breakfast is ready. We learn that Will, Jonathan, and Joyce now live with the Wheelers. During breakfast, Ted asks Holly to pass the bacon, but she's too busy reading A Wrinkle in Time. By the time the plate finally gets to Ted, all the bacon is gone, a sign of how crowded the house has become. After eating, everyone leaves for school or work. Karen and Ted stay behind, quietly worrying about how long this living situation will continue, though they don't want to ask Joyce's family to move. On her way to school, Holly listens to The Squawk Show, a radio show everyone in town follows. The host is Robin, and Steve works with her at the station. Robin talks about being at the site of the recent earthquake and how she didn't run like the others. Hawkins is now under quarantine, with more soldiers than actual residents. She also mentions strange dust that fell from the sky, wondering if it might cause sickness, since nothing like this has ever happened before. The huge crack in the ground has been repaired, and kids now slide on the smooth surface. Soldiers rush over and warn them to stay away because it's dangerous. Robin tells her listeners to avoid the MACZ Military Access Control Zone. She ends her segment with a piece of advice: stay home, go to work, watch TV, and for the kids, go to school. She mentions she has a date tonight but won't reveal who it's with. She plays the next song. In her car, Vicky hears the song and smiles, knowing it was meant for her. Just then, Vicky's radio starts acting up. Back at the station, all the equipment begins to fail. Steve jokes with Robin, asking if she really thought the military would let her show stay on the air if she kept talking smack about them. He tries calling Dustin on the radio. Dustin tells him the military isn't behind it, it's probably just a broken radio head. He adds that Steve should learn to fix things himself because he won't always be around to do it for him. At school, students stare at Dustin as he walks down the hallway. Two of Jason's old friends stop him. Jason himself is no longer alive. One of them, Andy, starts picking on Dustin for still being part of the Hellfire Club. Lucas steps in to protect him. Moments later, Mike and Will show up and the bullies back off. Mike immediately scolds Dustin for wearing the Hellfire Club shirt, telling him not to mess with those guys because they already have enough problems. Will tries to ease the tension, saying they should stay quiet and keep their heads down, but Dustin refuses. He says that they have always broken the rules and done what's right before walking away. On a school wall, there's a poster that says, "Jane Hopper missing." The scene cuts to Jane, 11, running through a forest while military soldiers chase her. Colonel Sullivan's team tries to capture her. They corner someone who looks like 11, but it turns out to be another woman. 11 used her as a decoy to escape. Meanwhile, the real 11 is training. She uses her powers to fly through the air at incredible speeds, breaking her old record. Hopper and Joyce watch from nearby. Even after setting a new record, 11 isn't happy. She wants to be faster. Hopper suggests taking a break and going to a movie, but 11 insists on more training. Murray drives back into Hawkins in his van. At the radio station, Nancy and Jonathan join Steve and Robin to help fix the broken equipment. While reading the manual, Steve leans a little too close to Nancy, and Jonathan notices. To repair the radio, someone must climb the tower. Jonathan volunteers, but Steve wants to be the hero, so he steps forward too. In the end, both of them climb together, trying to impress Nancy. When they reach the top, Murray arrives in his van. Steve and Jonathan reconnect a loose wire and cheer about their success, but no one below hears them. Murray has already handed Nancy and Robin a bunch of weapons and supplies he brought, including Gatorade for 11 to recharge, peanut butter for Steve, and a jazz cassette for Jonathan. He also shows them a lab report that says something big is happening in the Upside Down today. Judging by the supplies, the group is preparing for something major. Back at school, Dustin visits a snake he named Jake, hiding in a quiet room. Later, in the cafeteria, Lucas complains that Dustin has been acting strange. When Dustin joins them, everyone quickly changes the subject. Suddenly, The radio turns on again, and Robin's show plays. She starts a story filled with hidden clues. The four boys and Hopper in another location take out paper and pens. As Robin speaks, they begin writing down every coded message she gives. Hopper tells 11 that the hunt is on for tonight. They step into a bus and find a hidden ladder under one of the seats. It leads down into a tunnel. At the radio station, the rest of the group uses a similar hidden entrance that takes them into an underground command center. Nancy explains the plan, saying that if Murray's intel is right, the supply convoy will reach the MACZ at 10 p.m., and Hopper needs to be there by 9 o'clock. The convoy will then move through the crawl tunnel system, allowing Hopper and Joyce to enter the Upside Down. The kids will stay above ground to help. Hopper will have only 2 hours to find Vecna. If the plan works, it could finally give them a chance. But the group wonders what Vecna would even be doing there, since that area is supposed to be empty. Steve voices his doubts, suggesting that maybe Vecna is already dead. He points out that they have done the crawl plan over 30 times, and even 11 couldn't find him, so maybe it is already over. Jonathan reminds everyone about the vision Vecna once showed Nancy, a vision of Hawkins completely destroyed. Nancy admits she is scared and doesn't want to miss even one chance to find him. Mike then motivates the group, saying they'll do 100 crawls if needed. He declares that they will find Vecna and get justice for Eddie. Suddenly, Will feels something strange. His head spins and he looks weak, but he insists he's fine, just a dizzy spell. The group agrees to meet again at 6 p.m. and heads off their separate ways. At the elementary school, Holly is playing with her friends when a boy named Derek spins the merry-go-round too fast. A teacher tells the kids to come inside, but Holly spots her mysterious friend again. She says hi and walks toward them. The teacher follows but finds no one there. Meanwhile, in a secret lab, Sergeant Ramirez updates a doctor about their experiments on creatures from the Upside Down. He tells her that Sullivan's team failed to capture 11. Ramirez jumps back when one of the caged creatures moves, but the doctor calmly tells him not to worry, as it won't bite but might strangle him. As Ramirez leaves, she tells him to inform Sullivan that she needs that girl, because innocent people are dying. Then comes the twist. The military base they're in is actually inside the Upside Down. Back with the others, Hopper and Joyce are taking 11 toward the crawl, but Hopper stops her from going inside. 11 argues angrily, insisting she needs to go, but Hopper stands firm, telling her to stay put. He suggests that if she wants to find Vecna, she should use her powers from there. Joyce tries to calm things down, saying 11 is ready, but Hopper explains he can't risk taking her into a place where he has found dozens of soldiers hunting her. He knows he will need her later, which is why he can't risk her now. He then pulls out a box from his closet. Back at school, the bullies get their payback. Andy opens his locker and finds Dustin's snake inside. Dustin put it there earlier. Andy screams and freaks out, but the other students laugh and tell him the snake isn't venomous, calling him a coward. The locker has been spray painted with the message, Hellfire Lives. Mike arrives at the elementary school to pick up his sister. He finds Holly and their mom, Karen, sitting in the principal's office. Holly talks about her mystery man, saying he protects her and warned her that monsters are coming to eat kids like her. Mike tries to calm her down, telling her that monsters aren't real and she's just scared. He tells her what he does when he's afraid. He pretends to be his D&D character, Mike the Brave. He gives her a small character token, saying it has divine power and can open any door in the world, keeping her safe. Holly holds it tightly. Meanwhile, Will's fear keeps growing. He feels like Vecna is back, and this time they might finally find him. At the hospital, Max is still in a coma. Lucas sits beside her, playing her favorite song. In the hallway, Will spots Robin and follows her, but she's there to meet Vicky, who works as a nurse. Robin tells Vicky she made a dinner reservation at Enzo's for that night. Vicky says it's too expensive, but Robin tells her not to worry. They share a soft, romantic moment until Will accidentally drops his Coke can while watching from the doorway. Panicked, he runs away. Robin notices and realizes he saw everything. Dustin visits Eddie's makeshift grave. Someone has written "Burn in Hell" on it. Dustin sighs and mutters that they will get bored eventually. But then he realizes the red paint is actually blood. The bullies have killed his snake, Jake. Just then, Andy and his friends show up for more revenge. They start beating Dustin up. Lucas radios him, asking where he is because they have been waiting for an hour. Robin reaches the rest of the group and tells them Dustin's mom said he never came home. Mike sees 11 approaching and hugs her tightly. 11 is worried about Dustin too and tells Mike that Hopper has been acting strange. Mike tells her about Will's feeling, that maybe today they'll finally find Vecna and end everything. He talks about moving somewhere peaceful once the monster is gone. Lucas calls them over, and the group gets ready, armed and prepared for whatever's coming. Hopper picks up a tracking tag that will broadcast his location. Steve is trying to start the Cerebro, but there's a safety lock that Dustin normally handles. Since Dustin is missing, Will offers to take over. His mom immediately says no. Jonathan steps in and says he'll do it. Will feels hurt, like everyone sees him as the weak one. Steve and Jonathan head out in their car, while Mike and Lucas follow in another. Hopper climbs down into the tunnel. Before he goes, he looks at Joyce and tells her that she gets more beautiful every day and that he really hit the lottery. Back at home, Holly wears the character token Mike gave her. She overhears her parents arguing, saying they're worried about her talking to someone who isn't real and that she's too old for such behavior. Holly quietly cries, holding the token to her chest. Hopper reaches the military base. Mike and Lucas, watching from afar, see the supply convoy arriving. Two soldiers use flamethrowers to open a glowing gate into the Upside Down. The convoy drives through. When the area is clear, Hopper jumps onto one of the trucks and enters the Upside Down just before the gate closes behind him. Jonathan adjusts the signal to 90 dB and they head out. Joyce talks to Hopper over the radio, but suddenly, the convoy's vehicles begin crashing into each other. Everything goes silent for a moment. Then Hopper's signal returns. He reports that he doesn't know why, but all the soldiers have stopped. He lifts his gun, ready for trouble. At the same time, Will feels something deep inside. He sees a vision of Demogorgons charging straight toward the soldiers. In the Upside Down, the Demogorgons attack the convoy. One reaches Hopper's truck and kills the driver. At the same moment, Will collapses and falls unconscious in the real world. Hopper steps out of the truck and sees all the soldiers dead. He tries calling Joyce, but the radio is dead. Then he hears a Demogorgon screech, and it's heading straight for the Wheeler house. Will suddenly jolts awake. He grabs Nancy and shouts that the Demogorgon is coming for them. Nancy immediately races toward her family's home. Inside, Karen is drinking wine, and upstairs, Holly is crying alone in her room. Suddenly, her toys start making noise on their own. A Demogorgon smashes through the wall and attacks her, throwing her across the room. Downstairs, Karen prepares for a bath, and Ted is outside practicing golf. Holly screams for them and manages to escape her room. She runs to her mother, crying that there's a monster in her room. Karen tries to calm her down and says it's just a nightmare, but when she hugs Holly, she feels blood on her daughter's head. The house lights flicker wildly. Ted also notices something strange happening outside. Nancy and 11 race toward the house. Meanwhile, the Demogorgon enters the bathroom, but Karen and Holly are hiding in the bathtub behind the curtain. The monster can't see them. Ted comes inside holding a golf club. The Demogorgon hears him and goes after him instead. Karen and Holly slip out of the tub. Ted swings at the monster, but it knocks him away easily. Karen grabs Holly and runs. In desperation, Karen smashes a bottle and stabs the Demogorgon with the broken glass. Nancy and 11 burst into the house with their guns ready. Nancy freezes in shock. Mike asks over the radio what she is seeing. Nancy looks down and sees her mother, Karen, brutally wounded on the floor. The Demogorgon has attacked her. The portal to the Upside Down begins to close, and Holly's screams echo from inside. Just before the gate seals shut, 11 leaps through it. Karen and Ted are rushed to the hospital. A nurse tells Nancy and Mike to wait outside. Nancy is shattered. She goes to the bathroom and scrubs the blood from her hands again and again. Talking to Mike, she blames herself, saying she could have saved them if she had sent her family out of town earlier. Mike tries to comfort her, saying they did everything they could. He also wonders why the monster took Holly, asking what she has to do with any of this. Nancy thinks back to her vision. She recalls that Vecna showed her everything, how Holly, her mom, and her dad would all die. But they didn't believe him, and now it was all coming true. Lucas offers another explanation. He points out that Vecna is ruthless and could have killed her parents and Holly but didn't, so this must be part of his plan. He also questions why Vecna would send a monster instead of coming himself. Mike asks if he is suggesting that Vecna didn't do this. Lucas replies that he doesn't know, but he knows this happened before with Will. He reminds them of the date, November 3rd, and that Will disappeared on the 6th. He says that everything changed after that day, but this time, 11 will save Holly. A citywide announcement is broadcast. A strict curfew is now in place. Everyone must stay inside their homes. Sullivan's team arrives at the Wheeler house. A soldier reports that Nancy came alone and the portal to the Upside Down has vanished, as if it never existed. Sullivan orders them to check all CCTV cameras within a 2-mile radius. He's convinced 11 is behind everything. In his mind, she has always been the real monster. Inside the Upside Down, 11 searches frantically for Holly. She hears a sound and attacks, only to realize it's Hopper. She apologizes, then continues searching. She explains that the Demogorgon is injured because Karen fought back. At the radio station, the whole circuit board has burned out. Robin and Joyce have no idea how to repair it. Robin goes to look for a new fuse. Joyce, worried about Will, asks if his visions feel like the ones he had before. Will says that this time they are much worse and it feels like his connection to the hive mind is back. Joyce reminds him that they broke that connection. Will replies that maybe it never fully broke. He explains that when he was in California it was gone, but the moment he came back to Hawkins, everything started again. Robin overhears and joins the conversation. She suggests thinking of him as a receiver with an antenna, and the mind flayer's particles are like radio waves. When the antenna is close, the signal gets stronger, and when it's far away, it weakens. Will realizes that if he wants to find Holly, he needs to get closer to the upside down. Joyce refuses to let him go, and even though Will insists, she won't listen. Meanwhile, Steve is getting his car battery repaired. Jonathan tells him that Nancy's dad is in a coma and her mom is in surgery. Steve suggests they should go to the hospital and maybe bring Nancy some flowers. Jonathan snaps, telling him to stop. He accuses Steve of always acting like the macho hero around Nancy and trying to outdo him ever since he came back. He questions why Steve is thinking about flowers when Nancy's sister is missing and her family is falling apart. Steve fires back, stating that Jonathan is the only one who is happy in his relationship, but Nancy isn't. Their argument ends when the car finally starts, and a badly beaten Dustin suddenly arrives. In the Upside Down, Eleven tries telling Hopper what happened to Karen and Ted, but Hopper scolds her for wandering in the open where the military can spot her. Eleven answers sharply that they should end this today before they get caught. She believes Holly must be with Vecna, though neither of them understands why. Eleven notices a trail of Demogorgon blood and realizes the monster must be close. At the hospital, Lucas sits beside Max and tells her everything that happened with Holly. He reminds her how strong Eleven is, but says she can't win this war alone. Holding Max's hand, he whispers that they can't do this without her and pleads for her to come back soon. Mike brings coffee for himself and Nancy. He finds Holly's copy of A Wrinkle in Time and starts thinking. He asks Nancy about Holly's imaginary friend, the one their mom called Mr. Wisp. Mike explains his theory that since Holly said Mr. Wisp warned her about monsters on the same day a monster took her, it couldn't be a coincidence. He believes this friend is real. Nancy asks that if he's real, why didn't they see him, who could he be, and why didn't he warn them or their mom? Mike replies that he doesn't know and it's just a theory. He then tells Nancy that since she's the reporter, she should figure out how to find out who Mr. Wisp is. Nancy suddenly gets an idea. She tells Mike to go talk to the receptionist and keep her busy while she goes to talk to their mom, who must know something about him. Meanwhile, Steve fills Dustin in on everything that's happened and scolds him for disappearing in the middle of a crisis. Dustin starts thinking about Holly and says he told Steve to shut down the machine if the power surged, and this wouldn't have happened. Steve fires back, saying Dustin should have been there to do it himself. They argue loudly until Jonathan finally snaps and yells at both of them to stop. Dustin asks since when the two of them started getting along. Steve mutters that he isn't talking to Dustin, and Dustin replies that it's fine by him. Back at the radio station, Robin tricks Joyce and sneaks Will out with her. She praises his risky plan to use his connection to the hive mind to find Holly. She acknowledges that his mom is going to be furious, and with every reason, because the plan is dangerous. Will calmly replies that everything they have ever done has been dangerous. They head out together. Inside the Upside Down military base, Dr. K receives photos of Eleven. She snaps at Ramirez, telling him not to show her his face again until he has caught her. Ramirez reports that Eleven is somewhere inside the Upside Down. Eleven follows the blood trail left by the wounded Demogorgon, moving fast, but Hopper starts slowing down. She notices he's hurt and bleeding, so she stops to bandage him. Hopper opens up about his past. He tells her he was just like her as a kid, never listening to his dad, which got him sent straight to the army. Even there, he thought he knew everything but was just a fool who used his heart instead of his head, just like her. He talks about his daughter, Sarah, recalling how brave she was, fighting for her life every day, and how the doctors thought she would make it. Hopper chokes up. He admits he doesn't want to lose another daughter, meaning Eleven. Just then, a Demogorgon screeches nearby, and they move toward the sound. At the hospital, Nancy and Mike beg a doctor to let them see Karen, but he refuses. Karen needs rest, and her throat injury means she can't speak anyway. Nancy sees a group of janitors and suddenly gets another idea. Jonathan picks up a signal on the radio, but it's not Hopper, it's just interference. Dustin explains that if it were Hopper's tracker, they'd know for sure. Joyce overhears and mentions that Robin and Will are fixing a flux capacitor, wondering if that's causing the weak signal. The others stare at her, confused by the strange term. Will and Robin reach the same spot in the woods where Will felt something earlier in the day, but now he feels nothing. They keep moving, hoping the signal will grow stronger as they get closer to the monster's lair. Robin talks about the hospital. Will nervously denies being there today, but Robin says she saw him. She explains that Vicky works there and is her friend, acknowledging that some people won't understand their friendship. She asks Will not to tell anyone if he saw anything. Will insists he didn't see anything. They find a strange pattern on the ground. Will Will remembers hearing children laughing and playing when he was connected to the hive mind. In the Upside Down, Hopper and 11 follow the noise and reach a huge, fleshy wall. Holly's small shoe lies on the ground before it. 11 steps closer and states that this is why she couldn't find her, because she is on the other side. Dressed as janitors, Nancy and Mike slip past the hospital staff and enter their mother's room. Nancy gently holds Karen's hand. Karen's eyes open, and she tries to speak, but Mike stops her and hands her a pen and paper. Karen shakily writes one word, Holly. Nancy explains that Holly is missing and asks if Karen knows anything. Karen writes another question, who took her? Nancy says they don't know his name, but Holly called him Mr. Wisp. Karen's face fills with fear. Meanwhile, Will and Robin arrive at the elementary school playground, standing next to the merry-go-round where Holly played earlier. Karen writes that Holly's teacher saw her talking to someone who wasn't there. Will suddenly has a realization. He was at the playground, the sky was spinning, and he saw the vision from there. Robin points out that he said he was watching the Demogorgon. Karen writes a description, tall man, pocket watch, vest. Then it hits Will, he wasn't seeing through his own eyes. He was seeing everything through Holly's eyes. Karen slowly writes the man's name, Henry. Nancy and Mike freeze. Holly's Mr. Wisp was actually Henry Creel, and he has taken her to the Creel house. In the Upside Down, 11 tries blasting the fleshy wall with her powers, but it doesn't break. Hopper is exhausted from hacking at it, but every time he cuts it, the wall heals instantly. 11 says she needs to recharge her battery. Hopper warns against it. They don't even know for sure if Holly is behind the wall. Recharging means eating, and all Hopper has is jerky. Suddenly, military soldiers approach with a strange device that releases a painful frequency. 11 collapses in agony. The next morning, Joyce finds Will and Robin. Furious, she orders Will inside and scolds both of them. Will stands up to her, declaring he is right there and not a kid anymore. He tells her that just because she's his mom doesn't mean she's always right, and that her plans don't always work. He explains that when he connected to the hive mind, he learned something terrible. Holly is only the first. Vecna plans to kidnap more kids. They have to figure out who's next. At the elementary school, Derek, the bully, suddenly starts seeing visions of Henry. Meanwhile, Holly sits in the Creel house with Henry. He tells her kindly that doctors are taking good care of her parents. He gives her a bowl of blackberries, her favorite. Smiling, he says he is bringing Derek there soon and has told him the monsters will get him if he bothers her again. Holly smiles shyly. Henry tells her he'll be gone for the day and the house is all hers, but warns her not to go near the woods, explaining that's where the monsters live. Before leaving, he places a gift in the mailbox for her. Holly is excited, but a small uneasiness remains as she walks back inside. In the Upside Down, Sullivan's team arrives at the fleshy wall and removes the bodies of their fallen soldiers. Not far away, Hopper and 11 hide with a captured soldier named Ackers. 11 realizes Ackers must know about the wall. He was casual enough to urinate on it earlier, which means he isn't afraid of it. Hopper says that's impossible and wants to wait for the next convoy so they can escape and report back. 11 disagrees, arguing that there is no point since no one knows how to get through the wall, but this soldier does. She asks for 20 minutes to make him talk. Hopper sighs and gives in, knowing she's too stubborn to stop. At school, Mr. Clark teaches about wormholes, but only Erica is actually listening. She notices Lucas and Mike signaling her to come outside. They tell her Derek is in danger and ask her to get inside his house since his sister, Tina, is her friend. Erica refuses, saying she and Tina are enemies now. But when Mike tells her Holly's life is in danger, she finally agrees. At the hospital, Will and Robin pretend to visit an old woman named Mrs. Massey, claiming she's their grandmother. In reality, they're trying to steal her sleeping pills to drug Derek's parents. In the hallway, they run into Vicky, forcing Robin to hide. She had promised Vicky they would go to Enzo's tonight, and now she'll have to cancel. Will tells her to just kiss Vicky once, and she will understand. Robin blushes, realizing he saw everything. Will then asks how she realized she liked Vicky. Robin explains they worked together, became friends, and somewhere along the way, her feelings changed. The two manage to steal the pills. Murray returns to the team with more supplies. Dustin complains he forgot several items, but Murray defends himself. It's hard to get anything with all the military checkpoints. The tension between Dustin and Steve is still high. In frustration, Dustin drills a hole in Steve's beloved car to install his cerebro antenna. Nancy loads a tracker into a bullet that she plans to fire into the Demogorgon. Murray warns that firing it might damage the tracker, but admits it's only a theory. Nancy says they should test it. Murray then tries encouraging Jonathan to make a move on Nancy, saying tough times have brought them together before. Nancy, annoyed, tells them to focus on the mission. She fires the tracker bullet, and it works perfectly. As Murray leaves, he tells Jonathan to confess his feelings, and he spots a ring inside Jonathan's cassette case. In the Upside Down, Ackers refuses to talk. He insists he's just a normal soldier. Hopper calls his bluff, pointing out that he is Special Forces, one of Sullivan's dogs. Ackers angrily calls 11 a monster, blaming her for a helicopter crash that killed his friend. Hopper fires back, saying he would kill 1,000 soldiers like Ackers to save that girl. When Hopper asks about Dr. K, Ackers panics. He knows Hopper shouldn't know that name. It's revealed that 11 has been inside Ackers' mind. She sees the military base inside the Upside Down and a heavily reinforced door. When Ackers refuses to reveal what's behind it, 11 pushes deeper. What she sees horrifies her. She snaps back to her body and tells Hopper that behind that door is someone as strong as her, and she thinks the military has Vecna. Back in Hawkins, despite Henry's warning, Holly follows a compass into the woods, heading to the location in his note. At Derek's house, Derek plays video games and ignores his sister Tina when she calls him for dinner. She finally unplugs the game. Erica arrives pretending to cry, and Tina welcomes her in, thinking they're friends again. Outside, the team waits for the sleeping pills to take effect. Inside, everyone eats the pie Erica brought, except Tina. A fight breaks out between them over the pie, but soon Derek and his parents pass out. With Tina still awake, Erica uses her backup plan. Once the whole family is unconscious, Steve, Nancy, and the team move in. They close the curtains, put bags over the family's heads, load them into a van, and drive away. They return to Derek's house and set traps for the Demogorgon. Steve finds a chainsaw and cuts a hole in the floor, which they cover with a rug. Nancy prepares the tracker bullet. Now all they can do is wait. Robin, Will, and Joyce watch over the unconscious Derek and his family. Will apologizes to Joyce for his earlier anger. Joyce apologizes too. She explains that she's been overly protective ever since the day he first disappeared. She had fallen asleep watching TV and didn't realize he was missing for 8 hours. She confesses that she failed to protect him, and so now she tries too hard. Outside Derek's house, the lights begin to flicker. The Demogorgon is approaching. A portal rips open inside the house, and the monster steps through. It grabs a dummy, thinking it's Derek. Lucas attacks it, luring it onto a trap filled with nails. The Demogorgon steps in and gets pierced. Lucas then leads it onto the rug, and the monster falls through the floor into a pit, hanging from ropes. Mike hits it hard, knocking it onto barbed wire below. Jonathan sets it on fire, but before Nancy can shoot the tracker bullet, the Demogorgon escapes. Dustin quickly picks up its location using the Cerebro. Suddenly, Derek wakes up in panic. Will says it's too late. Vecna saw them and knows where they are. Meanwhile, Holly follows her compass through the woods. She reaches a rock formation and quietly calls out for Henry. A shadowy figure steps forward. Holly runs and hides. The figure moves closer. It's Max. At Derek's house, Joyce tries calming him. Derek points at Will and refers to him as Zombie Boy, the one who died and came back. Joyce gently explains that a monster had possessed Will, and that same monster is now after Derek. Derek insists Mr. Wisp already warned him about this. Joyce tries telling him Mr. Wisp is actually the one controlling the monsters. She unties him to show trust, but Derek panics, shoves everyone away, and sprints for the door. Will tackles him, and they lock him in. Will suddenly senses another vision. He bangs on the door. The Demogorgon bursts in. Joyce grabs an axe and attacks it. At the same moment, Steve crashes his car straight into the monster. The wounded Demogorgon flees, this time with the tracker on it. It disappears into the Upside Down. Steve speeds after it, and the team jumps through the portal. Will remains connected to the monster and can now see all the children it has taken. Elsewhere in Hawkins, the military arrives at the Miller home and seizes their daughter, Debbie. They begin rounding up every child from school, though nobody knows why. In the Upside Down, Steve drives recklessly while arguing with Dustin and crashes into the same sticky, fleshy wall 11 had seen. Their signal goes dead. Joyce loses contact with them. Robin realizes they are in the Upside Down. Will draws the wall and says Holly and 3 other kids are trapped there. More children will be kidnapped. No one knows what Vecna plans to do with them. Lucas and Mike report that the military is loading children onto buses, meaning Vecna isn't the only one after them. At the Upside Down military base, the doctor tells Sullivan there are 73 children between ages 9 and 10 in Hawkins. She believes 11 is kidnapping them, though whether she wants to kill or save them is unclear. The military thinks 11 is the monster, so they are rescuing the children. She orders Sullivan to head to the MACZ immediately. Ramirez objects, saying the kids are too young to be used as bait, but she doesn't care. Back in the woods, Max leads Holly to an old memory of her house. Holly recognizes her, the girl who skates around listening to a Walkman. Max says Holly probably thinks she is in in a coma, but there she is. She explains she wrote the letter to Holly to try to save her. She brings Holly to her old home, but here, it's only a memory. Max notes that the place looks nice, but it's a prison. At the military base, the students from school arrive. Erica sees this and reports back. Joyce and the others plan a rescue, but they need someone the military won't suspect. The only choice is Derek. In the Upside Down, Ackers escapes. Hopper watches the military base and questions 11. He points out that if Vecna is inside as she said, he might not have his powers, but if that's true, how did he kidnap the children? Hopper refuses to let 11 go inside alone. Just then, Dustin radios in, saying they've crashed into a disgusting, sticky wall. Hopper realizes they're at the same type of wall, but on the opposite side of the city. He warns Dustin it's not safe to talk and says they're coming. Meanwhile, Max continues her story to Holly. She explains that after Hawkins split, she briefly died. When she woke up, she was in the Rainbow Room. She walked through a door and found herself in 1959. She was trapped in Henry's mind, jumping from memory to memory until she ended up back at the start. One day, she heard her favorite song in the Rainbow Room the moment Lucas played it for her. She tried to reach him and was close enough to feel his hand, but the song stopped and the portal sealed. She ran from Henry and hid in this rock formation, a place Henry seems afraid of. She had lost hope until she saw Holly. Max warns her that Henry is coming and she has to go back to that house. Derek arrives at the military base, pretending he was left behind at school. Soldiers escort him to a room filled with children playing quietly. He excuses himself to the washroom and uses a walkie-talkie to contact Joyce. She tells him to gather all the kids who have seen Mr. Wisp. In the Upside Down, 11 prepares to infiltrate the base. She times her movements with flashes of lightning to stay hidden. She takes down a soldier and opens the way for Hopper. Derek tells the other kids that Mr. Wisp wants them to hide in the bathroom because monsters are coming. Some think he's crazy, but Debbie believes him. She knows Mr. Wisp is real. Elsewhere, Mike asks Will about the Demogorgan. Will explains he can feel it like he's connected to it. Mike suggests that if Vecna can control the monster, maybe Will can too. The team enters the tunnels, and Dustin finally picks up a signal. In an upside-down church, Nancy, Jonathan, and Steve plan their next move. Dustin arrives and explains that the fleshy wall they crashed into forms a giant circle, and the interference they heard earlier came from that circle. The center of it all is the Department of Energy Hawkins lab, where everything began years ago. Derek gathers the kids who have seen Mr. Wisp. Debbie leads them to the washroom. Lucas then smashes through the floor from the tunnels below, and the kids begin escaping one by one. Mike notices a leaking pipe and senses danger. Back inside the lab, Dr. K and her soldiers find a weakened 11. The doctor calmly says she has been looking for her for a long time. 11 replies that she knows who the doctor is and who she is keeping there, and that all of them are going to die. Meanwhile, Ackers and his men fire on a locker, thinking Hopper is hiding inside. It's another doctor instead. Hopper ambushes them from behind. He and Ackers get into a brutal fight, falling into a container holding a huge tentacled creature. The monster grabs Hopper. Dr. K arrives and tells him to stay calm. More kids crawl through the tunnel and escape. A child slips on the leaking pipe, and a girl sees it and warns a nearby officer. Mike alerts Lucas. Joyce orders everyone to go. Derek stays behind to slow down the soldiers. They find the hole in the floor. Dr. K demands to know why Hopper brought 11 to the one place she should never be. She tortures him by raising and lowering the temperature, causing the monster to squeeze tighter. 11, even though she's weak, manages to stab K. Hopper breaks free, knocks the doctor unconscious, and grabs her gun. Hopper gives 11 a compass to find Dustin. As he leaves, she accidentally pulls open his jacket, revealing a bomb strapped to his chest. Hopper explains it is the last option and he won't let anything happen to her. He tells her he is so proud of her before leaving her and going back inside the base. The rescued kids are loaded onto a truck with Murray. Erica informs them that Mike, Will, and Joyce have been captured. A soldier tells Sullivan that 5 children are missing. Joyce tries to explain the danger, but Sullivan insists they are saving the children. Derek warns him that he has seen what's coming and they won't stand a chance. Will suddenly has another vision of Demogorgons. Lights flicker and the ground shakes. A Demogorgon bursts out of a fissure, then another, and then a third. Soldiers try to fight but are helpless. Erica radios Robin to report the attack. Portals to the Upside Down begin opening everywhere. Lucas and 2 other kids are trapped in the tunnel as Demogorgons crawl out of the walls. At the base, Sullivan fires non-stop at the monsters. Mike shouts for everyone to head for the tunnel, but they are surrounded. When soldiers burn the Demogorgons with fire, Will doubles over in pain. In the lab, every creature in its container starts thrashing. Hopper opens the final door and lets 11 into the last chamber. From the portal inside the military base, Vecna steps out. Calm and confident, he walks through the chaos. Soldiers fire at him, but he kills them effortlessly. Using his powers, he raises his dead Demogorgons and brings them back to life. Outside, Murray and Robin's truck is chased by Demogorgons until it flips. In the tunnels, Lucas is overwhelmed. After slaughtering the soldiers, Vecna walks straight toward Will. Joyce screams for him to stay away from her son. Vecna tosses her aside easily. He places his hand on Will. He asks Will if he can see them and if he knows why they were chosen. It is because children are weak in both body and mind. Lucas is injured and 2 children with him are dragged away by Demogorgons. The kidnapped kids from the truck are gone too. Vecna tells Will that the children are easy to influence and that Will was the first and the easiest to break. He says Will showed him the true strength of his power. He releases Will and disappears back into his dimension. The Demogorgons then turn toward Robin, Lucas, and Mike. Will remembers Robin's words about the answer being inside him all along. He sees flashes of his life, meeting Mike, building Castle Byers with Jonathan, all the moments that made him strong. Mike opens his eyes and sees the Demogorgons frozen in place. The one stopping them is Will. His eyes are milky white. With terrifying power, Will kills all 3 Demogorgons the same way Vecna kills his victims, breaking their limbs with his mind. Then he wipes a small trickle of blood from his nose. Joyce stares at him in shocked silence. And with that powerful reveal, Season 5, Volume 1 ends. Hope you enjoyed this season. Volume 2 is coming soon, so don't miss out. Subscribe, hit the bell notification, hype it up, and like the video. See ya!